IP and 1340 WMON, St. Albans, Charleston, Montgomery, The Jock. Fishing the waters of the wild and wonderful, the bluegrass and beyond. It's Hook, Line, and Sinker with Cam Connors on The Jock.
Good Saturday morning. My name is Cam Connors, and thank you so much for catching another episode with Hook, Line, and Sinker. Now, I got to say, one of the things that I absolutely love about fishing is it is a super inclusive sport. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter if you are young, if you are old, it doesn't matter your ethnicity, it doesn't matter your gender, your pronouns. Fishing is an activity that just about anyone can enjoy regardless of anything else. It's a relatively division-free sport, and that's one of the things I really love about it. And you notice this until you start talking about fly fishing. I know some serious anglers, guys who are hardcore catfishing, bass fishing, crappie fishing their entire lives. And when I told them that I'm interested in learning about fly fishing, they looked at me as if I had started speaking in gibberish. So let me be clear. It's not a massive divide between, what you would call, I guess, traditional anglers and fly fishermen. It's not the Hatfield and McCoy feud or anything like that. But there seems to be a bit of a disconnect between, again, let's say bass fishermen and fly fishermen. And I think that a lot of it comes down to the competition. Bass fishermen are very competitive, whereas fly fishing is more of a zen, I guess, relaxation kind of thing. And then it also is a matter of strategy. I think, initially they're the same. You've got to study water temps and structure and your environment and lure selection. That right there, lure selection, I think is where it starts to kind of differ. Fly fishing takes a different approach. It's about presentation, but it's smaller presentations, and it's an ultralight lure with a weighted line versus then you jump over to like bass fishing, where you're going to be focusing on a very flashy presentation, something that's going to agitate the fish to strike quite a bit. And of course, most bass anglers, you move on to looking at the rod and reel. Most bass anglers are going to opt for a bait caster. Fly fishing, of course, splits into the fly rods and the weighted lines and the fly reels. And so all my life, I've been what you might call a conventional fisherman. I prefer spinning reels, personally. That's pretty much what I've always used throughout most of my life. But I do have a pretty decent bait caster at home. But the reason I mention all this, last fall, headed into the winter, I started getting very interested by fly fishing. I started reading a lot of articles on Field and Stream about fly fishing, and I started watching videos. And for Christmas, my wonderful wife got me a fly outfit, a rod and reel combo. And my goal over the summer is going to be to get good with it. I won't say master it because that's a pretty tall order, but I want to get proficient with it. And then later on this fall, I'd like to head up into northern, eastern West Virginia, do some fly fishing, maybe with an outfitter, a guide up in that way. Which actually leads me to the first guest that I'm going to have on the show today, Josh Hedrick. He heads up the Smoke Hole Outfitters up near Cabins, West Virginia, at the Smoke Hole Resort. I'm going to be talking with him about the business, the services they offer, and we'll learn a little more about fly fishing. As after all, I am a beginner. Also on today's show, my underwater inline fishing camera came in this past week, and have a little bit of an update on that. Then we're going to jump back to bass fishing with the West Virginia Bass Federation. We're going to learn all about the organization from President Bob Harkness. And last but certainly not least, we'll round out the show today with Megan Obermeyer from the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. She's going to be talking with us about the state's trophy fish and master angler programs. Now, most states have some form of this program now. West Virginia actually has one, and I'm hoping to get in touch with the West Virginia DNR to talk about theirs very soon. But today, we're going to talk about the one in Kentucky, and we'll dive into whether or not non-residents can do that as well. But for now, we're going to step aside for just a second and get a look at the weather and water conditions around the region. A major warm-up this past week in the water temps. Looking at the Coal River here in St. Albans, jumped to a high right of about 65 degrees this week. That up quite a bit. moving east to the Elk, where it runs into the Canal. A steady climate, temps throughout the week as well. Last I looked at it, about 66 degrees, almost 67 degrees. Moving to the west, taking a look in Kentucky at the Little Sandy River over towards Grayson and Greenup on the uptick as well. Though a little bit more up and down. It's a lot more varied this past week than, say, the Cole and the Elk. The Little Sandy saw a low of 55 earlier in the week, a high of right at 65 towards the end of the week. But again, it's been bouncing up and down, though we are on the higher end of that trend as we head into the weekend. And then for the mighty Ohio River, on the upward trend as well, though, of course, it's a bigger body of water, so it's still hovering around that 60, 61 degree mark. Taking a look at weather today and tomorrow. Today, cloudy and cooler, looking to stay in the high 60s today. We might reach 70 in some places. A little windy, too. West, northwest winds expected to be around 10 to 15 miles per hour. Taking a look at tonight, winds dying back down around 5 or 10 mile per hour with skies clearing up, and it's going to be a chilly one with a low of around 44. Tomorrow, the trend of good fishing Sunday is continuing. Warmer. We'll get into the low 70s with mostly sunny skies and a light variable winds to be expected for the day. Hey, when we come back with Hook, Line, and Sinker, we're going to cast right in with Josh Hedrick at Smoke Hole Outfitters. This is Hook, Line, Sinker on the John.
Progressive knows when you own a boat or RV, it's like you're automatically on vacation, even if you're actually a marriage counselor in the middle of couples therapy. But in your mind, you're camping in Acadia, puttering around Frenchman Bay. Your boat and RV are both protected. You're lobster drenched in butter and... Uh-oh, did your clients just notice you weren't listening? Quick, do the thing where you just repeat back exactly what they said but as a question. They bought it. Now back to Maine, earning an automatic discount bundling your boat or RV with your home or auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Interest rates and inflation are out of control. Is your credit card debt also out of control? It's time to resolve your debt and take back control for a lot less than what you owe. If you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt, then you need to call us right now. Debt Fix Pros can significantly reduce the amount you owe, and you could be debt-free faster than you think.
I knew we had to do something. Our debt was growing.
It was getting out of control, and we just didn't know what to do.
We saw an ad for Debt Fix Pros. We called, and they showed us how fast they could get us out of debt.
It really was amazing, and now we're back in control.
Call now, and we'll show you how easy it is to fix your debt. The call and consultation are free. Call Debt Fix Pros right now at 800-947-4011. That's 800-947-4011. 800-947-4011.
Good morning, Doctor.
Doctor?
Hi, Doctor.
Doctor?
Dr. Jackson's practice is growing.
What do you mean we're still short-staffed?
He needs a good patient doctor.
How do we not have enough doctors to doctor all these patients?
And he doesn't have the patience to sift through hundreds of resumes.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
1 out of 8 women in the United States will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. And the chances are you know at least one person who's been personally affected. But right now, you can help. It's simple. Donate your unwanted vehicle, RV, or trailer to the United Breast Cancer Foundation. It's the easiest way to contribute to one of the nation's leading charitable organizations. The process is fast, easy, and free. Not only will you be helping, but you'll also receive a tax deduction. The United Breast Cancer Foundation offers an array of programs and services that help and support families and individuals dealing with breast cancer. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. Simply give us a call to get started, and we'll schedule a pickup date that is convenient for you. If you have any questions you would like answered before initiating the donation process, please feel free to call us toll-free
at 800-551-9960. That's 800-551-9960. 800-551-9960.
What percentage of people who take drugs end up becoming addicted, lose control of one's life, and die of an overdose? No one can say for sure. But is taking drugs worth the risk? Arm yourself with the facts. Get your free The Truth About Drugs booklet set today. Go to drugfreeworld.org.
Fish on. Now back to Hook, Line, and Sinker on the Jock.
I'm Cam Connors, and I talked about this a little bit ago. For Christmas, my wife got me a fly rod and reel, a combo, or an outfit, as it's called. And I spent a lot of time last fall and last winter reading articles, watching videos, and so on about fly fishing. It caught my attention, and I've been a traditional angler my entire life. I've always used, spinning reels and, catfishing, bass fishing, even just, bluegill, crappie, that kind of thing. But to me, a big part of the sport, fishing in general, besides having fun, is learning. And I'll admit right up front, I am not an expert by any means on any of it. And I don't think that there's a lot of us who can really, we can consider ourselves, but, at the end of the day, it comes down to luck. And I think most of us would agree, we're not experts. There's no shortage of stuff for us to learn, and certainly no shortage of stuff for me to learn. But I don't know, fly fishing really caught my attention, and it was something I decided that I wanted to learn. And when I was planning this show, I did not want to leave fly fishing out in any way. And joining me now on the line, Josh Hedrick. He's the owner and a guide with Smoke Hole Outfitters up in Cabins, West Virginia, Smoke Hole Resort. Josh, thanks for taking the time to be on the show today.
Yeah, glad to be here, and hopefully we get to talk a little bit about everything, I guess.
Yeah. So before we dive into your business, let's cover a little bit of the basics of fly fishing. Some of the terminology is different. For example, a rod and reel combo is going to be called an outfit with fly fishing. Your guide services, they're called outfitters. So it is a little bit different terminology.
Right, correct. Yeah, so depending on how you're set up and what streams you're fishing, usually if you're buying a rod to get started, I always recommend like a 5-weight, and here lately a 4-piece is pretty common because that way people can pack it, whether they be flying, to a destination trip or whether be going, backpacking in the Seneca Creek or, anything like that. You're just a little bit more versatile with the 4-piece, but you can go smaller on some of the brook trout streams and, wild trout with, the little bit tighter areas. But as far as, all around getting started, beginner, your 5-weight is kind of like your middle of the road, kind of where you want to be to start out,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really have just started getting into fly fishing myself. I just got a fly rod, an outfit, for Christmas this past year, and that was one of the things whenever I started doing a lot of research, I started doing a lot of reading actually on Field and Stream on their website, which they've revamped, I guess, with new ownership over the last couple years. But there's a lot of information there, and that's, as you said, a 5-weight tends to be the all-around kind of middle of the road, perfect for beginner kind of. I call it the kind of utility weight.
You can do, hit different facets with that. You're still big enough to do smallmouth, and you can chuck a little bit bigger flies and stuff like that. And of course, if you're primarily a smallmouth fisherman, you're going to target like a 6, 7, 8 weight, something a little bigger. And of course, musky, you're bumping up from there.
Right.
So, but but as far as West Virginia goes, there's not much you can't fish with a 5-weight.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that I actually wanted to mention is because I think most people, when they think of fly fishing, they get stuck in this mentality of trout, and that is a very big part of it. But you can fish anything. You can fish bluegill with a fly rod.
Oh, and I tried to push that on people. I was like, listen, you don't have to drive 3 hours to a destination, to learn how to fly fish, or even work on your fly casting skills. I said, everybody's got a farm pond, go to the golf course or whatever it may be, just get out there and that's a perfect place to practice. And, like you said, just setting the hook on bluegills, that way when you move into something a little bigger and a little bit more of a skill set, you already got those fundamentals in place, and that is really critical. A lot of people do a lot of casting, and they'll get their casting down, and then when it comes time to hook a fish, they freak out because that's never part of their lesson.
Right.
And which I'm pretty blessed here. When we do our lessons, we're able to hook fish, and to me, that's a critical part of the lesson. I mean, you can cast and this and that, and get all that, double haul and whatever you want to, but hooking that fish and setting the hook and the timing,
that reaction time, exactly.
Keeping that tip up and keeping, working, letting that drag work, and just all that thing that comes around playing, fighting the fish. That's all part of it.
Exactly. And like you said, I think a lot of people get hung up on the casting part of it, which really is there's a technique to it, but it's more about timing than anything else.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a really, and a lot of people, the first thing I'm going to just throw at you, and I'm going to make a T-shirt that says this, and maybe you've heard it already, it says, you can't push a rope.
Yes.
And with fly fishing, that is 100% correct. You're not going to force anything. If you're not letting the rod do the work and you don't relax your forearm and your shoulder and everything, you're going to feel like you've been hanging drywall for 3 days. And you know what I'm saying? So then you're like, this is not fun, but if you don't relax, I always tell everybody in the lesson, of course, they're all worked up. This is day one, and they just get all tensed up, and I'm like, listen, I said, if you're not relaxed, I said, you're not going to have fun with this. You know what I mean? I said, don't feel like I'm going to yell at you for doing something wrong. I said, we're out here just having fun. And of course, they're worried about me critiquing them in a certain way, and I'm like, listen, I said, just relax. I said, limber this wrist up. You know what I mean? I said, you got to just relax. I said, this cast will never look right. And of course, back to what I said earlier, you can't push a rope. Right. You have to relax, and you pop to a stop, and then you let that fly line and the leader straighten, and then you let it drop. That's all part of the fall through. And once it seems like their cast gets better when I walk away from them and then look back, because when I'm right up against them, like, they're just afraid they're going to do something wrong.
Right. So we've covered some basics there with fly fishing. Let's talk about the business. Let's talk about Smokehole Outfitters. How did you get started in this?
Well, I'm a pretty much kind of ingrained in this all my life. Just picked up fly fishing and just kind of self-taught, if you will. My father wasn't a fly fisherman, but we, growing up here on the trout stream, I'd go with my uncle, and we would just get out there, and of course we learned by the heart. We we left a lot of flies in the trees, just like everybody else.
The hard way, right?
Yeah, we took the long way around, but no, I went to WVU, and I got a bachelor's in wildlife and fishery sciences. And then just right before I started there, I went to Idaho, and Irv Malnrich had a guide school out there in Montana, and we were able to go out there for the summer, and we were there for pretty much 3 months. I was there from start and right up to the when college started, and of course they wanted to hire me when I left out there, but I'm already enrolled in college.
Right.
But we were able to definitely Ron Stinnett, I'll never forget his name. It's been 30 years ago, but that was one of the guys that came in out of the Bitterroot area there into the Selway in Idaho, and he really was able to take me and just kind of like, listen, it's kind of like going to a golf pro, working on your swing, and this is kind of, he grabbed a hold of me, and he was able to fine tune me, and I learned a lot that summer. And of course, in all of our downtime, we was on the Selway and the Whitecap, and I was able to fish every evening. So that was kind of when I truly perfected it, if you will. And of course, that was the summer of '97. So that's been a minute.
Right. So of course, you all have you've grown the business into something pretty cool now, and of course, you work with beginners for one thing.
Yeah, we do a lot of beginner lessons, and of course we do what we call an extended lesson, and pretty much what that is just taking that lesson and moving it kind of a little bit longer. It's a little bit longer lesson, and we actually get to fish kind of with that, and that part with the hook set and playing the fish and all that, that's kind of part of that extended lesson where we're able to hook fish and make that part of the lesson. So
right,
it's usually about a 2.5 hour lesson is kind of where we're at on that. But really, there during COVID, there was like, man, it was like an explosion of fly lessons. It wasn't even uncommon during COVID for somebody from Chicago to call me and say, "Hey, can I come do a lesson in the morning?" I'm thinking like, what? And, it was a whole different year, but it seems like ever since COVID, it just seemed like they've been an explosion. I guess people had maybe a few extra minutes or, a little bit of time to spend with this because
looking for a hobby.
It was just like, yeah, exactly. They were just looking to get out. And of course, with fishing, you don't have to be right up against somebody unless you're on the salmon stream in New York, where you're elbow to elbow.
Right. Well, and
so everybody was out fishing.
So talk to me about, because I think we talked a couple of weeks ago, and you said that there was kind of a rebuilding phase going on. Was that right, with the trout population up there?
You mean where we had a couple droughts? Is that what you're speaking of?
Yeah.
Yeah. The last 2 years have been really, like, even last year the drought started there in June and it just went all the way through August. And anybody that's ever been around trout or raised trout or know somebody that's had a project like this, there's a constant battle with the temperature. Even if you have spring water. And, you still got to have enough flow to keep those temperatures because at some point it's not an oxygen issue, it's a temperature issue.
Right, they are cold water fish.
Exactly. And everybody's like, well, haven't you put more aeration in? I said, aeration is not the answer. I said, once I lose my temperatures, I'm done. And so we last year, I think we lost a total of 15 to 20,000. Fingerlings, and then we lost fry, and then we had the catch and keep pond, and we were shuffling water. We have a fairly large spring that we work off of, and it's just we didn't have enough water to pacify everything to keep it alive. So yeah, it was a really, and I think it was it was like in the last 130 years, it was like the 14th driest year. I mean, it was it was pretty drastic.
Yeah,
and of course. Anybody in West Virginia that gardens or just does anything outside or mows grass, all the landscapers are like, yeah, I'm not even mowing grass, it's brown. So everybody, all the customers that we had to turn away were like, yeah, I get it. We're dry too. So the year before, it was kind of just in this region, and a lot of folks would get here and they'd get a little fussy with you, and I was like, listen, I can't run a trout operation, without water and cold water at that. So,
right.
When it wasn't raining for a month at a time and, 90-degree days, and, it was a struggle, but there was a lot of state hatcheries, a lot of, guys that worked there in the hatcheries, and they said they all took a hit. And of course this year, we weren't even able to get the catch and keep pond open, just because, we lost all of our fingerlings. And then I was calling around to other producers trying to pick up fish to get the pond stocked, and they couldn't even promise me one load.
Yeah.
And so it was it's been a challenge. I have my catch and release area open this year, and we're doing really well with that. But, a lot of folks, they want a trout dinner and they bring the kids. And of course we have a commercial fee fishing preserve, permit for the pond. So, non-residents can show up and they don't need a license. So, that's very attractive to them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But
yeah.
But you guys are in a bit of a rebuilding phase, and so it's not. I mean, there is a positive outlook on it.
Well, you can't just cry over spilled milk. You just gotta
rebuild.
Buckle. That's what West Virginia folks do. You don't just sit around and pout and this or that. You just get to work. And that's kind of where we're at. Just make do with what you got and let the Lord bless you. With other things and opportunities, and fly lessons have picked up. So
right.
He'll provide for sure.
Well, and talking about other things, we talked about it before as well. You all have more than just the fishing that's going on there. Yeah.
Here at the resort, there's 32 log cabins, and of course we have the the family log cabins, and then we have the sweetheart cabins, that have the jacuzzis and different things. And then there's 27 acres here on the resort location, and just in the back, beside the private fishing that we have, is the North Fork of the South Branch of the Potomac, and that gets a weekly stocking. March, April, May, January, and February they stock that as well. But we allow access on our property. Folks that just come up for the day, that we have a parking area in the back of the cabins here where you can access the North Fork, and that's where the put and take, and they stock that once a week.
Okay. Well, yeah. Before we hop off here, I want to ask, is there, if folks want to learn more about Smoke Hole Outfitters and the services you offer, what's the best ways to do that?
Yeah, so probably your quickest way to get to all the Smoke Hole Cavern, Smoke Hole Gift Shop, all that, is to go to smokehole.com. And on the website, they pretty much have everything. There's mini golf, the putt-putt area you got up there to get the gem mine. There's other things. They do cavern tours every hour. There's just a lot of things to do here local. I mean, Seneca Rocks is only minutes away. Fork Mountain Trail, you're right here, kind of in the heart of everything. Dolly Sod is just behind us. So there's other things to do. So if you plan on making a stay, you definitely want to allow 2 or 3 days to see everything.
Right. It's a great place for the family. You can go do some fly fishing, and the family can go off and handle some other stuff, and you can meet back up. And so I first discovered you guys last fall. I was looking at planning a trip, and I was looking at places to go in West Virginia, and so you all popped up as one of the better places to go. And sadly, I've not been able to make it up there yet, but I do plan on hopefully this year getting up that way.
Yeah, that's what everybody usually, they'll mess up and not come long enough. Right. Get up here and they're like, they're trying to fit everything in. I want to go to Spruce Knob today. I want to pass, and then I want to run back down here and do the train ride, and then I want to get to Smoke Hole Canyon, fly fish one evening, and then it's like, gosh, we need to plan like a whole week.
Yeah, need to allow yourself a couple of days, definitely. Well, Josh, man, I appreciate you taking the time joining me today, and hopefully we'll get to talk again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, and it was great to chat with you guys, and hopefully we'll get you up here and you'll get to see everything.
I'd love to.
All right. Thank you.
A big thanks again for Josh Hedrick taking time to join us today. And a reminder, if you are interested in Smoke Hole Outfitters and doing some fly fishing up there, you'll definitely want to get a hold of them beforehand, because they are by appointment only. Still to come, I'm going to recap that underwater camera that I ordered from Amazon. I told you about it last week. Plus, we'll be chatting with Bob Harkness, president of the West Virginia Bass Federation. That's when we return with Hook, Line, and Sinker on The Jock.
Hey, get in. What? Who are you? I'm future you. Constipation with belly pain still coming back? Yeah. Mia, our doctor figured it out. She said it's irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, and Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Auto Accident Help Desk is a marketing agency connecting callers with attorneys. Providers pay a fee for advertising services.
I love getting my kids ready and driving them to school.
But a careless driver can change your life in an instant, and insurance companies want to settle on the cheap. Auto Accident Help Desk connects victims with powerful lawyers. They fight for you.
I called Auto Accident Help Desk and got help for my pain and suffering.
Don't let an insurance company take advantage of you. Our attorneys fight and beat big insurance every day.
Call 800-674-9189. 800-674-9189.
If you've been injured in an automobile accident in the last 6 months, you owe it to yourself to make this free call with no obligation. We're available 24/7 to help you get the money you deserve for your pain and suffering. Auto Accident Help Desk helps accident victims like you every day.
Call 800-674-9189. 800-674-9189. 800-674-9189.
When I grow up, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a veterinarian. When I grow up, I want to be a fireman. I want to be a scientist so I can connect like other things and build other things. I want to be an astronaut so I can float up space. When I grow up, I want to be a dancer. I want to be a superhero, but if that doesn't work out, I will be an engineer. When I grow up, I want to be a chef because I like ice cream. I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a jet pilot so I can take people to really fun places. I want to be a drug addict.
Get to your kids before drugs do. Arm yourself with the facts. Get your free The Truth About Drugs booklet set today. Go to drugfreeworld.org.
When I grow up, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a superhero. I want to be a dancer. I want to be a drug addict.
Get to your kids before drugs do. Arm yourself with the facts. Get your free The Truth About Drugs booklet set today. Go to drugfreeworld.org.
Fishtails, we've got them. Now back to Hook, Line, and Sinker on the Jock.
And welcome back. And I talked about this a lot last weekend. I was very excited about it. I'm still very excited about it. This camera that I ordered, long story short, I won a $100 Amazon gift card, and instead of spending it responsibly like a good person, I bought a fishing gadget. I bought this underwater camera. It goes in line with your fishing rigs, and it's supposed to get really good footage of the strike on your lure. Now, I had intended on taking this thing out on Saturday and doing some fishing with it, and then post the video up online, and, well, you know the saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Last weekend, of course, Easter, and this whole week, really, been super busy. The Easter weekend and family, and then this week, pretty much nonstop. I didn't actually get the chance to take the camera out and give it a try like I was planning. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I'll be able to take it out today or tomorrow and give it a bit of a try. Like I said, I do have it. It has arrived. I just haven't been able to get out to the lake, which bothers me more than you really can believe. Shifting gears now, last weekend we talked with Ken Hackworth at the Bass Nation of West Virginia. This weekend, we're learning about another bass fishing organization, the West Virginia Bass Federation. And on the phone with me now is West Virginia Bass Federation President Bob Harkness. How are you doing today, Bob?
Fine, thank you.
First off, I wanted to say thank you for taking the time to talk with us today and tell us a little bit about your organization. Let's talk about the Bass Federation. What exactly is it?
Well, it's the West Virginia Bass Federation. We're made up of clubs throughout the state, northern and southern divisions. We have 20 plus clubs, active clubs now. Obviously, several more inactive, but and we're over 200 active members.
Okay. So what would you say is the overall mission of the Bass Federation?
It's really just to support fishing, youth fishing, conservation throughout the state of West Virginia.
Of course, and you guys are involved in tournaments, and you're, like you said, the youth programs. Do you have anything going on with either of those here in the near future?
First of all, again, we were established back in 1974, so we've been around a while. We just had, a couple weeks ago, we had our state championships for both our junior program and our high school program. Now, we don't have an active trail for those throughout the year. Bass Nation does that, and they do a fine job of it, so we don't want to rob those the Bass Nation of that. They do a great job and promote it and give it a trail for the kids to fish. So we don't want to step on their toes.
Absolutely.
But every year we do put on a state championship, state federation youth and high school championship. And ours was just a couple weeks ago at Sutton Lake.
Okay.
Where there was I think eight youth or high school teams competed, and we had 6 youth teams compete. And those champions, of course, were crowned, and now they have an opportunity to move on to fish the World Championship, high school and junior, if they'd like to.
That's really cool. And see, I say it all the time on this show. I love whenever there's organizations that get the kids involved in fishing, because it's just such a wonderful sport, and it's a way to get kids interested in something that's outdoors. And I mean, honestly, it's a survival skill at that.
It is. It is. And again, I've never, I've been doing this a lot of years, and if it wasn't for my father, back then there wasn't a youth program, and it wasn't for my father taking us fishing every weekend, I wouldn't have fallen in love with the sport. So the kids nowadays are tough. It's amazing how much they're taught on the water with today's, obviously, the MLF, BASF, all the programs every weekend. These guys, and plus the technology as far as forward sonar, facing sonar, it's amazing what these kids can do nowadays.
Right, and it's great that we have organizations that are that are there to introduce the sport to these kids. Because in a lot of cases, there's kids who grow up without fathers. There's kids who grow up even with fathers who aren't into fishing, and so it's great that there's opportunities like with your organization to introduce fishing to the youth.
Yeah, well, like I said, Bass Nation, they're not. We don't consider them competition at all.
Right, they do a wonderful job as well.
They just do a wonderful job with the youth, and again, we wouldn't want to step on our toes for nothing. And I know our high school kids, they've already signed up for their event. It's going to be in Grand Lake, Oklahoma.
Oh wow!
So you're talking about, I think there was over. Just under 400 boats last year. So you can imagine it's the largest high school event in the nation.
That is unbelievable. That's huge.
Yeah. And our junior kids, whether they go or not, they sound like they're going to go. There's going to be a little tough, right? They're going up to Lake O'Hare, I believe, or Ojai, but it's in South Dakota.
Okay.
So, but it's supposed to be a wonderful smallmouth fishery, and it sounds like there's a little young man and a young lady that won, and it sounds like they're going to go. So I'm just excited for them, that's for sure.
Oh, I'm excited for them. I mean, to me, that is an amazing opportunity. I have always wanted to go fishing over towards South Dakota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, and I've never had the opportunity. And here, these kids have accomplished something that gives them the chance to go. That's really amazing.
Yeah, under 12 years old. Believe that. These kids are around. I'd say I didn't check their age, but they're probably 10 years old. They're just they're adorable, and it's amazing how, like I said, their father and their parents take these kids fishing, and they're tough. They're competitive.
Well, and
they went to Sutton Lake and caught a limit of fish. Actually, I think 5 or 6 of the youth teams caught limits. Only one didn't. And I fished it the second day in a buddy trail tournament, and we only had 2 fish all day. So I want you to know how I felt after competing with these 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old children. So
well, they must be some pretty good anglers then.
They are. They're good kids too. I mean, like I said, their parents make it happen, and it's just great that the parents care enough about the youth to get them out there and participate.
Absolutely. And of course, the Bass Federation involved in let's jump over, involved in conservation efforts as well, which I know your website doesn't have anything listed at the moment. So I was wondering if you have anything.
we don't have a program this year
really?
As far as, but what we'd like to do is whenever we can is pick a site, go out there and do some work on it in arms with the DNR and try to promote a backwater or a body of water just to help with habitat. I mean, that's been some of the things we've done, and just whatever we can do to help promote.
Of course. And see, I mention it because I'm a big believer in the conservation and if you see trash, pick it up, take it out. Leave no trace is a big mantra with me, because I talked about it on last week's show. We really have to take care of these natural resources if we want to continue to enjoy them and to pass them down to our kids. So, it to me, any organization that's going to further that cause, that's just a great thing all around.
Right, and with hunting and fishing, it's just leave it better than you found it. That's for sure.
Absolutely,
and that's what we've always preached and try to do. And if we can pick up a can along the way, a plastic bottle, something that's going to be there forever, pick it up and take it home with you.
Always, yep. So you mentioned a little bit ago that you all have several clubs throughout the state. If someone wants to become a member, how are they going to do that?
Well, we make it this year. We've made it easier than ever. Before we actually had to have enough members. You have to have at least a 6-man club to be an active club in our state. 6 is the minimum number, and that's just by the federation standards. And we have a club that's in Ravenswood. They have over 30 members. So, and they've been with us a long, long time. So, and they fish their own trail. They're very, very, very active. I've been with active clubs, and now I'm with basically a 6-man club, and we fish the Federation Trail. And then there's several other, the High River Challenge. I live near the river. I live near Parkersburg, and then fish the Bass Festival. So I'm spending a lot of time on the water other than just the Bass Festival or the Bass Federation. But
okay, and of course, if go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, folks can always learn more about you all with your website.
Yes,
I believe.
Yes, but I was trying to explain, and here I got off track. But
that's okay.
Make it easy as can be for them this year. Even they can do it now if they want to, but. This year we've said if you want to compete and learn about the Bass Federation, and you've never been a member of the Bass Federation, because a lot of people out there have, and they just jump here or there. But if you've never been a member of the Bass Federation, you don't have to join a club. We'll put you in a statewide club. I actually put a couple kids, young men, in my club this year.
Okay.
And all they have to do is pay their TBF, the Bass Federation dues, which is $50, and they can fish any of our buddy trail tournaments. They can fish our qualifier, and if they qualify, they can fish the state event. So if they just want to get an acclimation and find out what the Bass Federation is all about,
okay,
they're welcome to do that.
So and they can find out information, and they can get in contact with you through your website. I believe it's wvbass.org.
.org. That's it.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to touch on, before we hop off of here?
Well, like I said, we have 16 events a year. Just a little bit about our schedule. 4 of those are open. We have 4 open tournaments. You don't have to belong to the Bass Federation to fish those, but get on our site. The tournaments are there. Those opens, you just come. You come as you are. You don't have to be a member of the Federation or nothing. But the Buddy Trail, you do have to be an active club member, and you have to be an active TBF member to fish those. We have our Buddy Trail Championship every year, which is a no-cost event. It's going to be in Fairmont again this year on the Mon. We have a couple qualifiers, Northern Southern Division, and our state championship, which is a 2-day event. We have a semi-national event, which we host that every other year with the state of Virginia. So if you like to travel a little bit and get out there and fish in another state, they do a great job. We fished Kerr Reservoir. We fished a bunch of places, and they do a fine job. And It's a lot of fun. But that's something you can fish by just being a member of a active club and fish one of our events. That's how you qualify for that. So you pay into that. But and then the high school. Just remember, every year it's $25 to get a youth membership, and that's all it costs you. That team, it's $50, and you come fish free. Just come have a boat captain, come fish with us, and have an opportunity to move on to something really big and fish for scholarships and things of that nature.
All right, with some fantastic information, a lot of really great fishing opportunities. I appreciate you taking the time to talk today.
No, we appreciate very much getting the word out there. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for Bob Harkness for being on today. Still to come this morning, you can become a Kentucky Master Angler. Most states these days have a Master Angler and or trophy fish program of some kind. And today we're going to be talking with Megan Obermeyer, who heads up the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife's Trophy Fish Master Angler program. That's coming up next with Hook, Line, and Sinker on The Jock.
The more vulnerable among us can fall victim to abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. When navigating your way out, it doesn't have to feel like a maze. Assistance is available from Adult Protective Services. To report neglect or abuse, call 800-352-6513. Sponsored by the Administration for Community Living, West Virginia Department of Health and Human Resources Bureau for Social Services, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station.
This project was supported by the Administration for Community Living, ACL, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, as part of a financial assistance award totaling $383,493, with 75% funded by ACL HHS and 25% in the amount of $85,236 funded by state government sources. The contents are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of nor an endorsement by ACL, HHS, or the U.S. government.
Be green and make some green. At Metal Center Recycling, we are a vital part of the supply chain. We help put resources back into the economy. Instead of mining raw materials, we can use what we already have. From recycling your cans to scrap metal and more, just bring them to Metal Center Recycling and get fair and honest prices offered for your stuff. Check out themetalcenter.com. Metal Center Recycling, James River Turnpike just past the Pumpkin Park in Milton, and in Huntington just past the flood wall on Route 2.
From the local 2U studio, connecting West Virginia, this is the Valley Sports Station, 105.5 and 98.3 FM, 1300 and 1340 AM, The Jock.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Reels are streaming, lines are tight. We're back for Hook, Line, and Sinker on The Jock.
I'm Cam Connors with a question for you. Are you a master angler? No, I'm sure a lot of us would say yes, even if it's not true. Fishermen, we tend to tell tales from time to time, but you could be one according to the state. And here's how. So most states these days have a Master Angler program of some kind. On the phone with me now, Megan Obermeyer, who oversees the Trophy Fish and Master Angler programs in Kentucky. Megan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great and sunny here. It's great fishing weather, and thanks for having me on today.
Oh, absolutely. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about the Master Angler program in Kentucky. For folks who may not be aware of it, what exactly is it?
We have a program that when you fish in Kentucky waterways and you fish by rod and reel, if you catch certain fish over a certain length, that you qualify for what we call a trophy fish. And so what you do is you submit your photo, and we can talk about the process of doing that. And then once it's approved, you receive a patch. So it's a really beautiful patch and a sticker of the species of the fish that you caught. So say you caught a blue catfish, you would get a patch and a sticker of a blue catfish, and then you would also get an official trophy fish patch. And then further with the program, if you catch 3 individual species, so they would have to be 3 different species, you would qualify for what we call our Master Angler program. And then you would receive an additional Master Angler patch and sticker.
Okay. So after you get the 3, and of course there are more than 3. I noticed there was 6 or 7 different species that qualify.
We have 21 species that qualify. Yep, and it just has to be 3 of any of those 20, the 21 that we have.
Okay, so is there anything, like say you get all 21 of them, is there anything beyond that, like a next level to it?
Not at this time. It is something that we may consider in the future. Our program was suspended for many years, and this was our first attempt at getting it back on the road, and we're making sure we're getting this right and honoring some of our master anglers that haven't been awarded for the last several years, but it's something that we are considering.
Okay, so when did it get relaunched? Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. Is how, why, and when did this begin?
The program, the Trophy Fish program, began around 1987, I believe, and so we have records going back that far. And in around 2011, the program was suspended for a couple of different reasons. It was both a technical issue, it was a monetary issue on our end of just being able to provide the program. And it relaunched in March of 2024. So starting March 1st of 2024, we started with the new patches and stickers program. And so we've kept that running for a year now, and we feel that it's being very successful.
Okay, so it's like you said, right at a year since it's made its return. And sorry, I keep having to get a drink. My throat today, allergies. So
absolutely. So
how many Master Angler awards would you say are given out in a given year?
So since we started issuing the Master Angler Awards in 2024, we have issued 88 Master Angler Awards, and we know that there are several more out there. We have rough estimates of a couple hundred of people who could apply. The big problem that we ran into was converting the old records from 1987 to 2011. There were different formats in which things were submitted, and so trying to combine all of those records really delayed our department issuing the Master Angler Awards. Mm-hmm. So we're happy to announce that now people can apply for the Master Angler Award just by submitting a request through their profile.
Which I have to say, Kentucky and West Virginia is pretty good about it too, but Kentucky with the Fish and Wildlife, the online portal, has got to be one of the best I have ever used. I love it. It's so easy to use. It's all located in one place. You can take care of all of your licenses, your permits, you're submitting for your Master Angler. I mean, it's all in one place, and it's easy to find. I love it.
Yeah, we agree, and it's great for us on our end that if somebody were to call in, we've had instances where somebody says, hey, I've caught 3 different fish. One was in 1990, one was in 2000, and one was 2024. And we have to go back and find those records, and we find that there are 2 people with the same name. With that My Profile, we're able to combine everything into one spot. Mm-hmm. It's great for the licensing, like you mentioned, and it's great for us to be able to help people and to help honor, the fish that they've caught and their proud achievements.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you got to submit a photo of the fish. Let's talk about the submission. You said it is through the portal. Is there any, does it need to be, you hold a tape measure up to it, you're laying it down? Is there any stipulations on, can you be holding it up?
We do have a few things that will help your photo get approved. So one of the things that it used to be that you had to be in the picture. We realized that, if you're out fishing on your own, it's going to be really hard for you to get that good picture with you in there. So now what we require is that you submit a photo, a side photo of the fish, and it does not have to be held up to a tape measure. We do ask that it be as clear as possible. That way, the clearer the picture, the easier it is for us to approve and acknowledge your catch.
Right.
The catch does have to be submitted within 60 days of catch. So, unfortunately, if it's been 2 years and you think, oh man, I've got that great fish, I got to submit it, it does need to be within the 60-day range.
I got you.
And so we do, reserve the right for the final decision on the fish species and where it was caught. You also have to have a valid Kentucky fishing license.
Of course, which that's a given, I would say, for anything except for maybe the youth days in the state.
And we've discovered that there's kind of a misunderstanding out there in the public that our youth are not eligible for this award, which is not true. So in Kentucky, you have to be 16 years or older, and if you're 16 years or older, you have to have a fishing license.
Right.
So those our youngest anglers are still able to qualify for the program because they just go through the My Profile account, create an account. They'll need their social security number, and we always suggest a legal guardian parent's email address, and you're able to submit those as well.
So this is open to not just grown anglers. This is 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds could do this as well.
Absolutely. We love seeing all ages and everybody of every ability being able to catch these fish and be proud of that.
So what about out-of-state anglers? Are they eligible as well?
They are. They just have to have a non-resident fishing license, and that can be we have a couple of different options out there, and as long as you have a license with Kentucky, you are able to submit.
Awesome. Sounds like a very fun program. But now, this is going to sound, I don't know, it's going to sound different, but my question is, because I think it's really cool. I mean, this is something that I definitely want to participate in, but I want to know, what is the why behind it? Why was this program launched initially, I guess?
Well, I can't speak for why it was launched initially, and I wasn't part of the department. But when I was hired a few years ago, it was one of the tasks that I was asked to help get back on track, that this was something that the public wanted. We love our fisheries here in Kentucky. We've got such a vast regional difference from western to northern to eastern to southern Kentucky. And we have so many different ways that everybody in Kentucky and out of the state can come and fish. We've got your lakes, we've got your rivers, streams, and we have our Friends Lakes, which is our Fishing in Neighborhoods program. Everybody can fish here, and we want to be able to showcase that fishing's fun. Fishing's accessible for everybody. It's something that you don't have to spend a lot of money on, and just to go out and have a good time. Absolutely, and it's one of the things that I talk about on the show quite often is, fishing is for everybody. It's one of the things that I love about the sport is it's non-discriminating in any way. Anybody can do it. Yes, they can.
All right. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk today about the program. Is there anything that we haven't talked on that you would like to make aware, let folks know about the program?
No, just the fact that it's easy to do. It's if you just create a My Profile account, and no, we don't use any of that information to sell to other people. I do get that question quite a bit. Some people are a little hesitant to do that, and I totally understand.
I hear that all the time.
But it's something that just stays with us. Yeah, and so it's a completely easy program. And if somebody does catch a fish and they don't have internet access, there are other ways that we can get that submitted for you, and we're more than willing to help you do so.
Of course. If folks would like to get more information, of course, they could get it with the Fish and Wildlife online. Is there a number they can call or anything?
They can always call our 800 number, and that's 1-800-858-1549, and that's weekdays from 8 to 4:30 Eastern Time.
All right. Well, Megan, thank you again so much for taking the time to join me today.
No problem. Thank you for having me on.
That's going to wrap it up for the show today. Hey, don't forget, if you missed any of the show or you want to catch a past show, you could do that online. Head over to WJYPAM.com, click on the Hook, Line, and Sinker tab at the top of the page, or you can check out the Jocks mobile app. And, of course, we're now available on some of your favorite podcasting apps as well, so you can look for us on Spotify, Amazon, Pandora, and YouTube. I'm Cam Connors, and until next week, I'll catch you later.
This has been Hook, Line, and Sinker with Cam Connors on the Jock.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
It's time to get back to the Countdown 2 on the BetMGM Network. Here's Grant Paulson and Alex Gold.
With Alex, I'm Grant. This is Countdown 2, BetMGM Network, Infinity Sports Network. In just a couple of moments, we're going to welcome onto the show Prince Grimes, who covers the NFL and the NFL Draft for the Win.